Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Stoneridge Connect session. During this session, we're going to focus on what's new and upcoming within finance and supply chain management in our key industries of agriculture, manufacturing, and construction. So we're excited. We've got two of our senior solution architects with us here today to talk about what's new and what's coming. I'm Dustin Pagano. I'm our vice president of our F&O practice here at Stoneridge. I've been implementing in the dynamic space for about 12 years. I've done it on the end user side. I've done it as a consultant, and I help companies across all of our industries with their deployment and have specifically worked within the construction industry. As mentioned on the call, two senior solution architects, Kim Nelson and Matthew Thomas. So Kim, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hey, everybody. As Dustin said, I'm Kim Nelson. I'm the Senior Solution Architect Lead with Stoneridge. I've been with Stoneridge just over 6 years now, implementing lots of clients, especially in the ag industry. Prior to Stoneridge, I was at Great Plains Microsoft for almost 25 years working on the product. So I've worked on the finance modules, I've worked on project operations, and as well as did a stint on their solution architect team, which is now their fast track team, and helped many clients get live on the initial release of F&O. Matt?
Thanks, Kim. I'm Matthew Thomas. I'm also a senior solution architect here at Stoneridge. I'm focused on typically supply chain manufacturing and construction. I have a background in manufacturing and supply chain management, and I moved into consulting about 10 years ago from industry, and I've been working in this space for about 10 years now, both in Europe and in the US.
Awesome. So you could tell a lot of experience between Matthew and Kim, and we're excited to dive in to talk about some of our industries. Up first today is going to be agriculture. And Kim's going to be walking us through some of the things that she's seeing. But maybe first, Kim, can you maybe tell us what you've been experiencing in the ag industry regarding ERP implementations?
Sure. This has been one of the hottest markets over the past couple of years for us. So many of our clients and prospects are coming off of very archaic systems where the only person that knows what's going on is retiring. They have also a lot of security concerns related to their on-prem environments, and they need to replace these systems as soon as possible with a very secure cloud application. So implementing Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and Supply Chain with the Leverage ISV provides solutions for agriculture businesses. And then this includes streamlined commodity management, grain accounting, contract tracking, inventory management, and ticket settlement, where it's allowing businesses to make informed decisions based on that real-time data. Yeah, so it's all good. Very busy.
Yeah, it keeps us busy. And that is a challenging thing in this industry in particular. I think when the workforce is retiring and maybe they've been operating on the same archaic system for 20 or 30 years, and now we bring in this new technology. So I think helping organizations navigate through that, being able to train their organizations or train their individuals within the organization to be successful is a key part of that story. Maybe tell us a little bit more about Leverage. How often do they update? How deep is that functionality?
Sure. Leverage, as I mentioned before, brings support for the commodity accounting and also for egg sales on top of Dynamics 365 F&O. So they're an ISV for F&O. The support is for both inbound and outbound processes, as well as risk management reporting, including mark-to-market of contracts and inventory. Leverage is built on Dynamics 365 F&O, as I mentioned. So you're being provided the same look and feel. It's just like another module within the system. It is fully integrated with supply chain and with finance, so there's no issues there. Leverage, though, is relatively a young product, and there are typically some gaps that do come up in our discovery sessions with all of our egg clients. And within the egg industry itself, though, there are many different what I call sub-industries. So we're getting into process manufacturing. We could just have traders. They're just trading grain, for example, between each other. Or you have egg retailers where they're selling chemicals and seeds to the growers. So these gaps that I mentioned are often being filled with each release. The leverage team for sure is always willing to work with our clients to continue building out the product. I'll talk about the releases here. Like leverage currently releases 3 times a year. Release 1 for each year is typically in the May, and release 2 is September, and release 3 is December. And we do work with our clients to determine which release we want them to take based on what's in it. But for example, like I could tell you, like this first release that's coming up in 2026 is building out the big core functionality for direct ship, which a lot of our clients would like. And then the next release is going to enhance that even further by adding more automation and more reporting around that. So really
Excellent.
exciting.
Yeah, really exciting to see the growth of leverage and all the different sub industries that it covers, and a lot in those releases like you're talking about. So our clients, they work directly with us, Stoneridge Software, on the implementation services, and leverage is focused on the product. Maybe can you dive a little bit deeper, Kim, into what our relationship is with leverage?
Yeah, Leverage is actually the sister company of Stoneridge Software. So that gives us a lot of advantage, I think, in working with them. We have a great working relationship with that team. We're able to work with them on feature prioritization and help with design. I can't even tell you how many phone calls I've been on helping them through some of the accounting pieces of commodity accounting. Even though we are separate companies, we do interact with each other as if we were one company. So a very good relationship. I'm 100% with them.
Yeah, it's a strong partnership, no doubt. And it's one where not only are we successful in implementing, but we build our talent together too. I think their experience in ag and the way that they want to enable us as their premier partner in being able to speak the language and work with our ag customers and build that experience is something that really, I think, differentiates both of us together. So the partnership there is strong indeed. With that, maybe let's turn our eyes a little bit towards manufacturing. Matthew, can you maybe let us know about what different types of manufacturing clients we are experiencing today? Who are we working with?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks, Dustin. I think really for me, one of the most interesting things about this sector overall is its breadth and its depth. No one client is the same, even if it's a similar industry. Definitely everybody has their own uniqueness and nuances dependent on a lot of history and also future perspective as well. But in terms of the sub-industries, thinking about that concept that Kim brought up earlier, we find ourselves working with a whole range. But some particular examples to call out right now, we're looking at the chemical industry. So we are working with chemical producers using that process manufacturing core functionality that D365 brings to us. We're also working with low volume engineer to order organizations where they're dealing with those large, complex, multi-level bill of material, really dealing with the interactions between those levels and how we schedule the shop floor and that sort of complex but low volume, all the way through to really our high volume producers where it's really all about speed and also margin. I think what I'd like to talk about in terms of what's common though, is often what we're finding, we're really not just talking about technology. When we're talking about the transformation of a manufacturing business, typically when folks come to us, we're building that partnership as advisors, both in technology, but also in other areas of the business as well. And what we're finding is that the change of an ERP, whether that be a 30-year-old AS400 or some other solution that's on-prem, the opportunity to make those changes you always wanted to make really comes to light. So what we find is the ERP sort of initiative, then it's a catalyst for a broader transformation. So we really find ourselves getting involved with all clients in terms of data quality is always one. The opportunity to reset some of those decisions you made previously is a core one, and we invest time there, and we really encourage our clients to invest time to get that data transformation ready. We're also talking about reducing manual processes. So whether that's on day one or not, we're really looking at that vision of let's automate what we can and really allow the system to take a lot of that heavy lifting that typically has been quite human driven within our manufacturing industries. we're looking to also retire those disconnected systems, whether that be some Excel spreadsheets or some standalones. It's okay to use some of those informally, but we don't want them being the core. So we want to be looking at the transformation really from all of those perspectives. And we find ourselves getting involved in all of that. And that's one of the great things about this, is why we love this consulting business, to be able to get in and really help this be a transformation for a long-term successful future for our clients. There's also that people element. So the other thing we really do is get in and get to know people and really understand that level of change as well. That's another part of the journey that we really find ourselves involved in.
Yeah, it's important what you just mentioned, right? So not only is it the traditional ERP, we have a desire or a need, maybe our ERP is being sunsetted or is no longer supported. We got to get to a modern technology, but I loved how you framed that. And I think it's so true. Building the business capability and helping a client go through that business transformation is how Stoneridge wants to engage with our clients. So it's more than just the technology, it's the people, it's the processes, and it's the tools that we're talking about. And in the world that we're living in, it's much more complex than just an ERP, right? There could be a CRM system. We might need to integrate to different point of sales systems. You've got the data component, as you mentioned, the evolution of Copilot, which we'll talk about here in a second, and just automation. So being able to look at that holistically and understanding what are these manufacturing businesses trying to achieve, and then using the right tools, a key part to how we deliver. So I love what you're saying there, Matthew.
Yeah, and I think really what you're bringing up there is one of the things that we are finding we're doing a lot is thinking about how to phase a project ultimately. The opportunities are far greater now than they were when I started doing this in consulting. Even we really had, okay, here's the modules we're working with, and we're within that core framework. Yes, we can do integrations and things like that. But now the opportunities are much larger. And that really presents a challenge as well. So being that sort of business advisor as well, helping clients craft really the journey, how we decide on that journey, first of all, and then how we articulate that journey to not just BPOs, but just to the wider business stakeholders as well. So we find ourselves doing a lot of that work, working out what does core mean, what do we want to tackle on day one, and get really out there, fixed. Clean data might be one of those. Sunsetting an MES might be another one. But what is the core versus what is going to be those future phases? CRM is sometimes one of those. Are we going to integrate with CRM on day one? Are we looking at moving to a Microsoft CRM, maybe as a phase two? And really laying that out as that transformation journey is a lot of the work I find myself involved in right now with our clients.
Maybe what advice, given what you just said, what advice, Matthew, would you give a manufacturing company who's replacing their ERP as to the approach or the path forward?
Yeah, I think I'm going to use the word investment, and I'm going to use that deliberately. This is an investment from a business who wants to make this level of change. And I think seeing it in that way, we want everybody to be successful for the next 20, 30 plus years from this transformation. And it really is worth taking the time and making people available. So we think about what is the core solution and what problems do we want to tackle, really investing the time to have those conversations. I'm often dealing with companies with legacy customer records. That's one that's coming up a few times. A legacy system required a record to be broken down by address, for example. Well, now we have the opportunity to change that and get it into a more harmonized way. We're going to look at moving away from some old practices that really folks have got stuck in. So unbreaking the past and then investing in that sort of discovery, road mapping type approach that we recommend, and really helping folks start to think about, what do I want? How do I want this to be? What's going to give my users joy in using this system as well, rather than just I have to go through these processes. And really unbreaking the past and helping folks think future. That's probably one of the best things actually about this job, is to really see that change happening and get in and say, I don't have to live with something that was decided previously, and really get that right. But that does take time, and it does take investment in that initial phase. And what we find is once those core foundational decisions are there, It then makes it much easier when then we're implementing work stream by work stream because we know what the foundation is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that foundation is just key to build off of, and it also helps build momentum, which in turn I think leads to more success too, just in the implementation side of it. From a solution perspective, Matthew, are you seeing Microsoft investing in this industry? What capabilities are they building to help support our manufacturing clients?
Yeah, that's a great move, really, to think about that. Microsoft is continually investing. I want to start with that point. One of the things that we talk about is we want to make sure that we're not preventing any of that future that Microsoft is investing in. We don't want to lock any of that away from us. So a little bit about the advice as well as we move into this part of our conversation here. We want to be very careful with fundamental changes that we want to make. It's okay to make the user experience easier for people by adding some additional non-impactful new fields or just new automations and things like that. But we strongly recommend keeping with the core base spirit of the software as far as possible to enable us to come and make use of, for generations to come, actually, these new features. I'm going to call out a few here for this conversation, though, and we can really think about this in some categories of operational insights, greater efficiency, and the traditional expanded functional scope. It's not just about more features, it's also about how things play together. I'm going to start with one of our agents, actually, and we'll talk more on this later, but the supplier communications agent really fits into those first two categories that I've mentioned there around deeper operational insights and then efficiency. This tool for manufacturing companies is really elevating that procurement team. And I almost want to say, finally, it's giving us the ability now to say, okay, procurement folks, really you want to spend your efforts in sourcing, whether that's in dual sourcing or really looking at which suppliers you're working with, and also putting your efforts into managing those supplier relationships, really, rather than dealing with all of the difficulties of following up on individual transactions. That agent is coming. We're seeing that as an initial opportunity for folks to get into the AI space as well. But really, it's allowing the elevation of a work stream out of just the traditional purchase order management.
Yeah. Great to see that continued investment. I think the things you're mentioning there lead to a more efficient workforce, being able to make decisions in a more timely fashion. So it's awesome to see what's happening in this space.
Yeah.
Let's turn to our third industry, construction, and maybe going back to Kim, a similar question. Construction's an industry where maybe, out of the box, I would say that F&O or finance and supply chain management might not necessarily have the reputation for being the strongest. I know Microsoft is looking to get stronger here. So where do you see them investing for construction?
Glad you asked, because that is exactly what they're going to do. They are moving on to start some investment in the construction and manufacturing industry related to projects and how to manage projects for those industries. So project operations is what you've all maybe have heard of, but that is really something that is made up of 3 different deployment options. So it gets a little confusing. The first one is just standalone. So project operations, a lot of times when they say that, it's really project management built on top, a project management application built on top of the Power Platform. So it's a standalone at that point. That's one option. So it's just project management, no invoicing, no revenue, nothing like that. The second option is that you take that application built on top of the Power Platform and it's integrated into D365 Finance as using dual write to bring over the projects. And then the project management and accounting module inside of F&O is doing all of the accounting for it, the revenue recognition for it, invoicing, expense management. Then the third option is just using F&O, just like some of you may already have heard or we've tried to use, but they are not investing in the project management pieces of the F&O product. They are definitely putting a lot of that investment in the Power Platform. application, and they're going to continue to build that out. They have a really nice tool to use for the WBS called Project. Microsoft Project is completely embedded in there. They have really a good, awesome resourcing tool that is also used by the field service application, so you can manage all of your resources and schedule. And they have a lot more robust functionality related to subcontract management and some of the how you bill, at what level are you billing and what rates those are than what F&O can give you. So I would say they're going to get there. They're not there yet. It's going to take a few years for them to finally get to where they can take over from the F&O, completely move people out of the F&O project management space. They're going to work on a way to migrate people. But if you are using that module or interested in using that module, definitely we should take a look at it. There's, like I said, there's some gaps that still remain on there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not ready for you. It just depends on what your business is using. It may work fine, and see if that's what a better option would be for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great to see the investment here as well. I know this is a huge area of opportunity for Microsoft to grow into the construction space and help these project-based companies. And I like the variety and the different types of options. So it doesn't necessarily, there's not like a one size fits all. I think as a company goes through this process and evaluates what's the right flavor of project operations for them, and it gives you a certain sense of flexibility. So excited to see Project Ops continue to evolve, and hopefully that leads to even more continued success in construction. So maybe, Matt, I know you've been working recently within the construction industry. Given what what Kim just covered in terms of where the product's going, what advice are we giving construction companies where maybe Project Ops isn't the right fit?
Yeah, I think we're really thinking about the specific groups of users actually, and the types of applications that folks are using already. For those organizations that want the ERP to cover that more project accounting style and not really surface that project management interface, the project management and accounting module is good for that. And so we're not saying that we should move away from that if that core functionality lives with those accounting teams. We're working with folks right now, actually, where that's true for them. They want the sort of more accounting flavor of that sort of project perspective. And then what we're doing is talking with the project managers about, okay, what are they doing today? So we have examples where folks are already using a solution, especially for some of the larger companies where they've got something that's rolled out already and it's working for them. So it's more of a discussion of how we build that holistic integrated system between F&O, absolutely, but also other solutions that really form this overall technology ecosystem with them. We do our discussions to make sure they genuinely are happy with that project management solution already. And for those that aren't, we support those discussions around what options they've got. But for those who are happy, it's really a journey of, okay, let's look at this integration, let's look at automation, let's look at seamless flow of data between systems and make sure we're doing that really as part of that core implementation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these construction industries, they're robust, right? It's not just your traditional, I'm doing construction in a new building or a retrofit. They've got service, they've got inspection, they've got equipment maintenance. They've got complexity in terms of their workforce. Are they union, non-union? So all these things need to be factored in as we think through the solutions you're talking about or other third parties. What are some different options do you see out there, Matthew, for construction companies to help maybe handle the complexities of their business, whether that's field service or equipment maintenance? And how are you thinking about the rollout strategy when you get that complexity? Is phased approach or big bang the right path to go down?
Absolutely. And those are key conversations. Back to the investment, we encourage investment in those discussions because every business is unique, even if it looks like one that is similar. Of course, we have knowledge, we have this whole portfolio of knowledge and experience we bring with us. But really, it's that sort of active engagement of analysis and listening and bringing leaders together in a room. We like to do that in Stoneridge in a roadmap engagement where we take those time to have structured workshops and conversations to get to know a client. We don't want to come with a prepackaged, this is the best option for you until we know you. So we want to make sure we get to know people. You mentioned that sort of landscape of solutions, whether it's ERP, project management, field service, maintenance, and other things. We need to get knowledge. So we need to understand the position now of each of those solutions currently, what needs to be sunsetted because it's not performing or it's antiquated, versus actually what needs to be grown because it's great but not fully rolled out. When we're thinking about big bang versus phasing, we often think about, are we going to be making these decisions together anyway? If so, let's do this as one. If there's other things that are less impactful early, they're suitable for phasing. But I think what we're finding early on is, especially for businesses that have a spread across those areas where new construction versus service, they're equal, we want to make sure that we're tackling this together in a harmonized way. And that's something certainly that we are thinking is certainly a good fit for some of our clients currently. And then, Dustin, you called out field service. We're thinking about, what do you want from field service ultimately?
Right.
Is the Microsoft product going to be good for you? How deep and how heavy is it in certain areas? How specialist is it? What do the clients expect from it? So we bring that to the table. We don't dictate whether folks should use that. We bring that, and then we really think about what other options are there in those industries that people are working in.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. It's when I think about the complexities in construction, and you brought up one of our key offerings here, right? So if you're somebody that's considering going on on one of these journeys, these business transformation journeys, whether you're in construction or ag or manufacturing, we have our roadmap offering here. And I think what I'm hearing you say, Matthew, is like before we jump in and start solutioning, or maybe we think everything has to live within an ERP, we tactically take a zoomed out approach to their business. And we do that with our delivery resources here at Stoneridge. And we try to think through the entirety of their capability and how do these pieces fit together? How do we structure it? What's the right tool given the technology landscape and Microsoft being a big part of that? And then how do we structure it in a way that helps you not only achieve your goals, but is in a digestible way that clients can take on and be successful with. Definitely, if you're somebody here that's thinking about where do I get started on this journey, or how do I even begin to think about what's the right tools, or how would I sequence this, I would just encourage you, reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you more about our roadmap approach and how we work through that to get to what right looks like for your business transformation. Now let's switch it up a little bit. All the buzz and the craze today is around AI and Copilot, agents, automation. There's a lot happening here. There's a lot of advancement, and we're seeing its impacts not only within the industries we're talking about, but in terms of how people are working every day. So maybe, Matthew, from a company looking to begin adopting AI, if you haven't started that journey, what should they be doing in finance and operations?
Yeah, that's a great question. Do you know, Dustin, I almost feel like for some folks, it's a little bit like starting a fitness program.
Yeah.
You need to do it. And there's a ton of YouTube videos out there you can watch that will terrify you. But ultimately, going for a walk 15 minutes a day is a good start. So I think what I like to help people think about, you do not have to be building an agent to be successful and to be using AI. Especially, I'm going to think about our manufacturing and these industries talked about, manufacturing, ag, and construction. We want to start using Copilot, start using it naturally. Think about M365. So we're in Outlook, we're in Teams, we're in Word, PowerPoint, just starting to get that muscle memory of using Copilot naturally in a way that is easy to handle is really, for me, let's start there. Let's start using this every day. I feel like a little bit like a sales plug, but we have some good content actually that I've been using recently on our flight school that helps people just start knowing where Copilot is across the Microsoft stack, which is really useful to know where it is and what it's good for. So I think start there, and then it starts to get natural. You start to think about, okay, Copilot is part of what I do every day. I'm used to it being there, and treat that as the foundation. And then we can up the game a bit. So for those people that maybe are using F&O right now, but aren't really looking at the Copilot features. Or for clients that we're working with in implementation, we just want to start using this in a natural way. So just use the Copilot generated summaries and forms. Help it to surface some of those insights. I was mentioning insights in terms of what Microsoft's bringing in terms of new features, but maybe I'm using the demand planning app, for example, and I've got used to how that works. Copilot functionality there now to help you. It's going to identify the trend doesn't seem quite right. It's going to flag that up to you and it's going to prompt you and it's going to be that assistant. So getting used to Copilot assisting you, surfacing data, surfacing anomalies, I think is the next level ultimately to go to once you're used to using it in that sort of M365 way.
Yeah, no, I love that guidance of thinking about it, working out or the 15-minute walk, right? Like you're right. It's a muscle that you have to build within your organization. And I think at first it can be daunting. What is all this? What's all this technology? It's moving so fast. But I think you're spot on. If you just spend a little bit of time, whether it's within the application itself and looking at some of the agents that are there or within M365, create that culture, spend that time. These tools are evolving quickly. And I think they're going to transform the way we work, of course, for forever. Don't be afraid to dive in. Now, I would say a question maybe for those on the call today that aren't necessarily first movers or skeptical, or they want AI to be more solidified before we make a jump. If we have people that are thinking, should we delay our implementations for a couple of years until AI gets solidified or it gets there and it's more tried and true? What advice would you give to somebody that might be thinking like that?
Yeah, and we are asked this question regularly. I was at a client doing a roadmap recently, and I was asked this very question: should we wait a year, 2 years? What do you think? And I gave this some thought actually, because it is true, AI is evolving. That is true. We're also trying to evolve ourselves as users of AI and how we interact with it. But ultimately, when we're thinking about that technology transformation, we are talking about the structure of a business, and ultimately the ERP is the tool that sort of is, once we've designed that, that's what enables it, enforces it, is it ultimately. That's a human effort. So designing our data, working out what our core functionality is in terms of scope, how we're going to configure costing, for example. Are we doing standard costs? We're doing FIFO. Those are decisions that sit within the realm of the partnership of consultants and business leaders. And AI is not going to replace that today.
Yeah.
Or in the near future, I would suggest. So I think really, I would suggest don't actually, almost the opposite. Don't delay, because you want to be on the AI journey. So at the moment, if you're thinking about, should I wait? What should I do here? By starting, we talked about the roadmap, and there's a reason why we keep talking about that, because that's where those core foundational discussions happen. Yeah. We're really going to say, let's have the AI opportunities in mind as we're building. We mentioned the supply communications agent already. That's out there right now. Of course, we bring that to the party for the procurement teams that want that now, of course. But really what we want is clean, strong decisions, design, data, integration framework, those pieces built and implemented in a way that AI can naturally then be part of that future. And actually, by getting ERP done now, we're going to be in earlier in the AI journey as well. So I think there's a positive to getting a lot of our core business stuff done while AI is younger. And then we've got more time to spend on how we automate the sort of more manual type of processes that we might still have.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think between that and the last question of how do we begin adopting it, I think it just investing that time, and it is going to evolve, but I think you're right. I think you got to get into it now and you got to start learning and you got to start laying the foundation, and the data set is incredibly important. But if you're not getting on that train and building that muscle now, your competitors most likely are, right? And I think being able to partner with a company like Stoneridge that can help you navigate through that in terms of how you should think about AI, or where does it make sense, or where do we deploy agents or automation, whatever it may be, we can help you out on that journey. So I guess from your perspective, Matthew, as you work with different clients across our industries, what are some of the use cases you're seeing out there for agents?
I think where we start with is that repetitive transactional work. We're looking to see where can we automate, and also where are we doing that chair swivel as well? Where am
Yeah.
I in my outlook? I'm in F&O, I'm bringing a vendor back to the sort of procurement world. I think we want to be tackling where can we be automating some of that early. That's a great starting point. There's other areas as well where traceability in the quality area, for example, is something that Microsoft is really investing in now. For me, it's a great game changer in terms of just like core functionality, but we've got AI enhance abilities there to warn me that something's out of spec, for example. So some of that sort of early stage, letting a user know that something's not right. I'm going out of spec in the
Yeah.
chemical industry where compliance is essential. Let's think about what an agent could do to either out of the box one or building something that's more specific, but really giving me that early warning. I think that's another area I think about.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent use cases there for potential automation in agents. Maybe, Kim, I guess from your perspective, if I'm on finance and supply chain management, what out of the box Copilot agents would you recommend starting with?
Oh, being a finance person myself, the number one choice there is the account reconciliation agent that Microsoft is now shipping. I do recommend that everyone has that on their implementation. We put that now into our solution blueprint to enable that from the get-go. That tool is analyzing your general ledger transactions, helping you provide insights and recommendations as you're trying to reconcile to the subledgers. So it'll find things like, oh, you're out of balance because there's this entry here. Do you want me to reverse it? It'll give you other options that you can choose from, or you can manually do things yourselves or just leave it because you know that it's really supposed to be there. But it does a lot of that versus you having to go through every line in your trial balance, the detail behind an account balance and trying to figure out what's wrong. I always think about me as an accountant and having back in the old days with the checkbook and balancing your checkbook and you're being off a penny and trying to find that darn penny. This takes away a lot of that pain. And as Matthew mentioned, the supplier communication one is shipping out as well, right out of Microsoft right now. And it's helping to streamline that vendor communication. Do you have a shipment that's late, or it's scanning emails from the vendor and getting updates there? It can update the expected receive date as well based on communication from the vendor for you. So it's just really helpful in that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'll get a recovering former accountant myself too. It resonates, the account reconciliations and how that could help people streamline the month end close process. And it's between that and the supplier communication agents. I think those are two great recommendations. Definitely appreciate your insight and perspective, Kim and Matthew, as two of our leading functional senior solution architects here within our business. That concludes our session here today. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have. And if you don't have them today, we're happy to follow up with you. If there's anything, whether it's industry specific or Copilot agent automation specific, or you're just trying to figure out where to get started in your journey, we're here at Stoneridge Software to help you. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks.